Join me as I dive into an alternate history and explore what life would be like if the South had actually won the Civil War. Imagine a world where the Union never prevailed, where the Confederacy emerged victorious, and where the consequences of that outcome have ripple effects that shape the course of modern America. The American Civil War was a brutal and devastating conflict that lasted from 1861 to 1865, claiming the lives of over 600,000 soldiers and civilians. The war was fought over the issue of slavery, with the northern states seeking to preserve the Union and abolish the institution, while the southern states fought to secede and maintain their right to own slaves. The war was marked by brutal battles, sieges, and guerrilla warfare, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the Confederacy fought valiantly, but ultimately they were no match for the industrial might and superior resources of the Union. The defeat of the Confederacy had a profound impact on American history. It paved the way for the abolition of slavery, the Reconstruction era, and the long struggle for civil rights that followed. The war also led to a more centralized federal government, with increased power and authority over the states. The Northern victory cemented the United States' position as a global economic and military power, shaping the course of international relations for generations to come. But what if the South had won? What if the Confederacy had emerged victorious, and the Union had been defeated? This is a fascinating question that has captivated historians and alternate history enthusiasts for decades. In this scenario, the consequences would have been far-reaching and profound, with implications for politics, society, economy, and international relations. In a world where the South had won, it's likely that slavery would have continued to exist, at least in the short term. The Confederate Constitution had enshrined the institution of slavery, and the Southern states would have been free to maintain and even expand it. This would have had devastating consequences for millions of enslaved Africans, who would have remained in bondage, subjected to the brutal and inhumane treatment of their white masters. A Confederate victory would have also had significant implications for politics. The South would have likely become a separate nation, with its own government, constitution, and institutions. This would have led to a fragmented America, with two rival nations competing for power and influence. The balance of power in the international system would have been altered, with the South potentially forming alliances with European powers to counterbalance the North. The economy would have also looked very different in a world where the South had won. The Confederacy would have been free to develop its own economy, based on agriculture, with cotton and tobacco being major exports. The North would have likely continued to industrialize, but at a slower pace, with the South competing for markets and resources. This would have led to a very different pattern of economic development, with the South potentially emerging as a major economic power in its own right. In this scenario, international relations would have also been dramatically altered. The South would have likely sought recognition and support from European powers, potentially leading to a complex web of alliances and rivalries. The British in particular would have been keen to maintain good relations with the South, given their economic interests in the region. This would have led to a very different global order, with the United States potentially emerging as a weaker, more fragmented power. One of the most intriguing aspects of a Confederate victory is its potential impact on major historical events. For example, would the United States have entered World War I on the side of the Allies? Or would they have maintained a policy of neutrality, given their rivalries with the North? Would the South have participated in the war effort? Or would they have remained isolationist, focusing on their own regional interests? A Confederate victory would have also had significant implications for the course of World War II. Would the United States have been able to mobilize its vast resources and industrial might to defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan? Or would they have been too weakened and divided to play a major role in the war effort? The South might have even formed an alliance with the Axis powers, given their shared ideologies of white supremacy and anti-communism. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s would have also looked very different in a world where the South had won. Would African Americans have been able to achieve the same level of progress and equality in a society where their enslavement had been legitimized and enshrined in law? Would they have been forced to continue to fight for their basic human rights, facing even greater resistance and oppression from a Confederate government determined to maintain white supremacy? In conclusion, a Confederate victory in the American Civil War would have had far-reaching and profound implications for American history, politics, society, economy, and international relations. It's a fascinating thought experiment that challenges our assumptions about the course of modern history and encourages us to think critically about the consequences of alternate outcomes. If you enjoyed this thought-provoking exploration of an alternate history, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think would have happened if the South had won the Civil War? Let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on historical what-ifs.